All right, buckle up, everybody, because we are about to take a deep dive into a world that might just make you question everything you thought you knew. Today, we're talking demonology and spirit evocation.
Ooh,
A
spooky.
little bit spooky, yeah. But it's more than just, scary stories and horror movies. We're going to explore the history, the beliefs, the practices, all that good stuff.
It's a fascinating field, really, and it goes way deeper than most people realize.
Exactly. And to guide us on this journey, we have Dr. Stephen Skinner's book, Demonology and Spirit Evocation. Have you had a chance to look through it?
I have, yeah. It's like a crash course in how humans have viewed and interacted with the unseen world, across different cultures and time periods.
It really is. And one thing that surprised me was just how ancient these ideas are. I mean, we're talking pre-Christian era.
Oh, yeah, this stuff goes way back, long before the idea of demons as these, purely evil entities took hold.
So, are we talking good demons?
Not good, exactly. More like, I guess, multifaceted. Think about ancient Egypt, for example.
Okay, ancient Egypt,
They had these beings called demons who weren't automatically considered evil.
interesting. So not like, little devils whispering temptations in your ear.
Right, exactly. More like intermediaries between humans and the gods.
Okay, so less devil on your shoulder, more like spiritual middle management.
Haha, I like that. Spiritual middle management. And, Egyptian magicians would call on these demons for all sorts of reasons, like healing, protection, that kind of thing.
And they had specific methods for doing this.
Oh, yeah, very specific techniques. A lot of them are outlined in these texts called the Papyri Greco-Magicae.
I've heard of those. But, when I think of summoning spirits or demons, I think more like, medieval grimoires, creepy rituals, that kind of stuff. How does ancient Egypt fit into all of that?
Well, that's where it gets really interesting. The methods in those ancient Egyptian texts, they're surprisingly similar to what you find in later grimoires, like the Key of Solomon, for example.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like there's this underlying technology, if you will, for interacting with the unseen world that's been passed down and adapted across different cultures and time periods.
And that makes you wonder, right? If people have been doing this for centuries, maybe there's something to it.
Exactly. It suggests there's this, I don't know, shared human fascination with the unseen, this desire to tap into those forces, whether for good or for ill.
Speaking of ill, it seems like things took a bit of a darker turn with the rise of Christianity, right?
Definitely. With Christianity, you have this very clear divide between good and evil, with demons firmly on the side of darkness.
And magic, which maybe was once seen as a neutral tool, became associated with the devil. Talk about bad PR for the spirit world.
Right. But it's interesting because even Jesus himself was accused of using demonic power.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So how did he respond to that?
His response is actually really telling. He basically acknowledged that using a senior demon's name to control lesser ones was just common practice. Like, it wasn't even a big deal.
So even in that context, there was still this idea that you could interact with these entities, use them for your own purposes.
Absolutely. And it really makes you think about how much our views on these things have changed over time.
It also raises the question of how you study something that's essentially invisible to most people, right? Like, how do you approach a field like demonology from a scholarly perspective?
That's a great question. And Dr. Skinner actually makes a really interesting comparison in his book. He compares it to the early days of virology.
Okay, virology.
Think about it. You can't see a virus, right? But you can observe its effects.
So you're not studying the virus directly, you're studying what it does.
Exactly. And in the same way, demonology looks at the phenomena, the things that happen in the world that seem to point to the existence of these unseen forces. It's about trying to make sense of the effects, even if the cause is hidden.
That's a great analogy. And, speaking of effects, we should probably define some terms here. What exactly is the difference between spirit evocation and exorcism?
Okay, so spirit evocation is about calling forth the spirit. It's about making contact, trying to communicate with them.
Okay, like picking up the phone and dialing the spirit world.
Right. And then exorcism, on the other hand, is about getting rid of a spirit that's already there. It's about kicking them out, banishing them.
So evocation is inviting them in, exorcism is showing them the door.
Exactly. And Dr. Skinner's book gives us some pretty wild examples of both.
Oh, I bet. Any that stand out.
Well, there's the classic story of Jesus exorcising demons into a herd of pigs.
Right, that's a vivid image.
And then there's the story of the magician Eleazar who performed an exorcism in public, and to prove that the demon was leaving, it knocked over a cup of water.
Wow, so the demon was doing party tricks on its way out?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But it shows this idea that spirits could actually interact with the physical world, you know? They weren't just abstract entities.
Right, they could have a real tangible effect.
Exactly.
Okay, well, speaking of powerful figures who could supposedly interact with the spirit world, let's talk about King Solomon.
Yes. The OG demon whisperer.
Right. This is the guy who was said to have used demons to build his temple. I mean, talk about ambitious construction projects.
It's a story that has captured the imagination of magicians and scholars for centuries.
And we have sources that actually claim to detail his interactions with these entities, right?
Yeah, we have texts like the Testament of Solomon, which gives us these insights into, supposedly, how Solomon interacted with demons and learned to control them.
So it's like a window into Solomonic magic.
Exactly. And these techniques, they were said to have been passed down from ancient Egypt to Solomon and eventually spread throughout Europe.
So Solomon is like the connecting link between those ancient practices and the magic we see in later grimoires.
Precisely. And one of the most famous grimoires in the Solomonic tradition is the Key of Solomon.
Oh, the Key of Solomon.
This grimoire is basically a magician's handbook full of rituals, instructions, lists of spirits, and their powers.
Okay, so if I wanted to try my hand at summoning a demon, hypothetically speaking, of course I'd need a copy of the Key of Solomon.
Well, you definitely want to do your research. And one thing you'd learn from studying grimoires is that this isn't just about, chanting random spells in a dark room. There's a real system to it, a methodology.
So it's not just superstition, there's a real logic to it.
There's an internal logic, absolutely. Think of it like this. Both magic and science, in a way, involve repeatable procedures, right? They aim for predictable outcomes.
Okay, so there's a method to the madness.
Exactly. But here's a question for you. If you were going to summon a spirit, wouldn't you want some kind of protection?
Yeah, good point. I mean, you don't know who or what you might be dealing with.
Exactly. Protection is a huge deal in Solomonic magic, and it kind of goes against this, new agey idea that all spirits are benevolent.
Right, like they're all going to be your cosmic buddies.
The grimoires make it very clear that you need safeguards, and those safeguards usually come in three forms: the circle, magical tools, and personal phylacteries.
Okay, so picture this. Magician in a circle, decked out in magical gear, holding a glowing amulet. Am I on the right track?
Pretty much, and there are some pretty intense historical stories that illustrate why these protections are so important.
Oh, like what?
Well, there's the ancient story of Sita from the Ramayana. She was kidnapped by a demon after stepping outside her husband's protective circle.
Yikes. Stay inside the lines, kids. Lesson learned.
And then there's the even more serious account of a priest who died after being attacked by demons he summoned without a circle.
Okay, point taken. Circles are important. But what about that triangle thing you often hear about?
The triangle of art. That's basically a smaller, more focused space within the circle. It's meant to contain the spirit you've summoned and make sure it answers your questions truthfully.
So it's like a spiritual interrogation room.
Kind of, yeah. It's about controlling the interaction, making sure you're in charge.
Got it. But with all these spirits out there, how do you know who to call? Is it like a cosmic phone book or something?
Well, that's where the Lemegeton comes in. It's basically a who's who of the spirit world.
The what eaten?
The Lemegeton. It's a collection of 5 grimoires, and it's like the ultimate spirit encyclopedia. It lists their names, powers, even what they look like.
So it's like demons for dummies, but way more intense.
Oh, something like that. But it offers a very systematic approach to understanding and interacting with spirits.
Okay, I'm intrigued. What kind of spirits are we talking about here?
It covers a wide range. There's the Goetia, which lists 72 evil spirits. Then you've got the Thirja Goetia, which deals with spirits that are, well, kind of in between good and evil.
So like the Switzerland of the spirit world.
Exactly. Then there's the Ars Paulina, which focuses on good spirits, planetary influences, all that.
Okay, so we've got the bad boys, the neutral parties, and the angelic squad. What else is in this Lemegeton?
There's the Ars Almadel, which is about angelic conjuration using a special wax tablet and incense.
Okay, wax tablets, incense, getting fancy.
And finally, you have the Ars Notoria, which is a bit different. It's focused on using angelic help to gain knowledge quickly.
Wait, what was that last one? Angelic help for speedy learning. Tell me more.
The Ars Notoria is all about enhancing your mental abilities. It involves special rituals and prayers and these complex diagrams called nota that you're supposed to contemplate.
So like a spiritual shortcut to a PhD.
Not quite. It still emphasizes hard work and dedication, but the idea is that by aligning yourself with the right angelic forces, you can accelerate your learning process.
And this was actually studied by, like, real scholars back in the day.
Oh, yeah. People like John Dee and Robert Flood, who were known for their vast knowledge, were said to be practitioners of the Ars Notoria.
So it wasn't just for, lazy students trying to avoid hitting the books.
It was about pushing the boundaries of human understanding, tapping into a deeper source of knowledge.
This is incredible. I feel like we've just scratched the surface of this whole world.
We definitely have. Each of these grimoires is a world unto itself, full of rich history and fascinating insights.
I can't wait to dive deeper. But for now, I think this is a good place to pause. We've traveled from the pyramids of Egypt to the grimoires of Europe, and I feel like my brain is already overflowing.
We've covered a lot of ground, that's for sure, but we've only just begun to unravel the mysteries of demonology and spirit evocation.
And when we come back in part 2, we'll be exploring the Lemegeton in more detail, really getting into the specifics of each grimoire.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. And in the meantime, dear listeners, we encourage you to think about what we've discussed today. What sparks your curiosity? What resonates with you?
Welcome back to our exploration of all things demonology and magic.
I'm ready to dive back in.
Last time, we left off with this incredible book, the Lemegeton, this collection of 5 grimoires that's essentially a guide to the spirit world.
It's like a who's who of the unseen realm.
Exactly.
So where do we start?
Well, I think it's only fitting that we begin with the most infamous section, the Goetia.
Ah, yes. The Goetia.
Home to those 72 not-so-friendly spirits.
The ones that probably inspired a horror movie or two.
Definitely. But the Goetia is more than just a list of scary names. It actually provides really detailed descriptions of each spirit.
Oh, really? Like what kind of details?
You get their appearance, their powers, even the number of legions they command.
Okay, so it's like a demonic organizational chart. Who reports to who in the underworld.
Exactly. It gives you a sense of their hierarchy, their areas of expertise.
Areas of expertise. So, like, is there a demon of procrastination? A demon of bad karaoke?
Not quite, but the Goetia does refer to these areas as their office, their specific realm of influence, if you will.
Interesting. So if you were looking for a demon to help you, I don't know, win a cooking competition, you'd need to find one whose office was related to food or skill or something.
Precisely. The Goetia gives you that kind of insight. It helps you understand which spirit to call upon for a given purpose.
Okay, but let's say you found the right demon for the job. How do you actually go about summoning it? I mean, I'm assuming there's no app for that.
You'd be surprised.
Right.
The Goetia outlines a series of increasingly intense evocations, culminating in an invocation of the spirit's king. These evocations are actually drawn from another grimoire, the Heptameron, by Peter de Abano.
Okay, so it's a multi-step process. You're not just, snapping your fingers and making a demon appear.
Right. There's a real ritual involved. You need the right tools, the right words, the right atmosphere, and all of that is spelled out in the Goetia.
And it sounds like timing is important, too.
Oh, absolutely. It even gets into planetary hours, specific times of day when certain planets are strongest, and secret seasonal names, incense recipes, instructions for consecrating your magical tools.
Wow, that's a lot of detail. It's kind of amazing, right? We tend to think of magic as this, I don't know, superstitious mumbo-jumbo. But when you hear about the level of detail, the emphasis on precision, it starts to sound almost scientific.
It's true, and I think that's one of the things that makes demonology so fascinating. Whether or not you believe in the efficacy of these practices, the fact that they were approached with such a systematic and methodical mindset is pretty incredible.
Okay, I'm ready to move on to the next section of the Lemegeton. What can you tell me about the Thurdu Goetia?
All right, so the Thurdu Goetia focuses on spirits that are neither wholly good nor evil.
Ah, so the ones who are still figuring things out.
Yeah, kind of. They occupy this middle ground. They might have both benevolent and malevolent aspects.
Interesting. So they could be helpful or harmful depending on, I don't know, their mood that day.
It's more about the magician's approach, really. And one thing that stands out in the Thurdu Goetia is its emphasis on direction.
Direction. You mean like north, south, east, west?
Exactly. It even includes a detailed compass rose indicating where each spirit comes from.
So it matters which way you're facing when you summon a spirit.
According to the Thurdu Goetia, yes. It's about recognizing the spirit's origin, its nature.
Okay, so it's not just about, bossing these spirits around. There's an element of respect involved, of understanding.
Right. And I think that's a theme we see throughout the Lemegeton. This idea that magic isn't just about brute force, it's about aligning yourself with these forces, working with them, not against them.
Okay, I'm seeing a pattern here. So let's move on to the next part of the Lemegeton, the Ars Paulina. Now, this one I'm particularly interested in because it has that connection to the Apostle Paul, right?
Yeah. The Ars Paulina is said to be based on knowledge that Paul received during his mystical experiences, including his ascent to the heavens.
So it's like a divinely inspired grimoire.
In a way, yes. And what's interesting is that the Ars Paulina is divided into two parts.
Two parts. How are they different?
Well, the first part focuses on good spirits and their connection to planetary hours.
Planetary hours. Could you break that down for me?
Sure. So in astrology and magic, each hour of the day is associated with a particular planet. So for example, the first hour after sunrise on a Sunday is ruled by the sun, followed by an hour ruled by Venus, then Mercury, and so on.
Okay, so it's like a cosmic schedule.
Right. And the Ars Paulina tells you which spirits are most easily evoked during specific planetary hours.
So it's all about timing.
Exactly. It's about understanding the flow of celestial influences and working with those energies.
I'm starting to see how all of this connects. So what about the second part of the Ars Paulina?
The second part takes those planetary influences and connects them with the degrees of the zodiac.
Okay, now we're getting really astrological.
It is. It actually lists the angels associated with each of the 360 degrees of the zodiac, so you could use it to, figure out which angel governs your specific birth degree.
Whoa, so it's like finding your own personal guardian angel based on your birth chart.
You could think of it that way. It's about this idea of a personal genius, a guiding entity that's connected to you through your astrological makeup.
This is fascinating. It's like astrology, angelology, and magic all rolled into one.
And it gets even cooler. The Ars Paulina also talks about using a crystal stone for scrying.
Scrying, like gazing into a crystal ball.
Similar, it's a technique for accessing visions and communicating with spirits. And the Ars Paulina suggests using scrying to connect with your personal genius or guardian angel.
Wow, that's amazing. It's like having a direct line to your own personal spiritual advisor.
Exactly. And it really highlights the potential for deep personal connection within this system of magic.
I love how each grimoire we've looked at offers a different perspective, a different set of techniques. It's like they're all pieces of this larger puzzle.
And we have two more pieces to explore, the Ars Almadel and the Ars Notoria.
Okay, hit me with the Ars Almadel. What's that all about?
The Ars Almadel is all about angelic conjuration, but it uses a different method than what we've seen so far. Instead of a traditional magic circle, it focuses on creating and using this special wax tablet called the Almadel.
A wax tablet. That sounds interesting.
It's basically a square tablet with 4 candles at the corners and these strategically placed holes that allow incense smoke to rise up and envelop a scrying crystal placed on top. And it's inscribed with all sorts of divine names.
So it's like a mini altar designed specifically for contacting angels.
Exactly. And the Ars Almadel goes into detail about how to create and consecrate this Almadel, the invocations you use, the prayers you say.
And there are different types of angels you can contact, right?
Yeah, it talks about 4 koras, which are basically groups of angels associated with the 4 cardinal directions.
So each kora governs a different area of life, offers different blessings.
Precisely. It's about aligning yourself with those specific angelic energies.
This is amazing. Okay, we've gone from demons to angels. What's left?
The final part of our Lemegeton journey takes us to the Ars Notoria. And this grimoire is unique in that it's not about spirit evocation at all.
It's not. So what is it about?
It's about knowledge acquisition. It's about enhancing your intellectual abilities.
So it's like a magical brain boosting program.
You could say that. It promises to accelerate your learning in all sorts of fields, from languages to math to philosophy.
Sign me up. But how does it actually work?
It involves contemplating these intricate diagrams called notae, while reciting specific prayers and angelic names. The idea is that these practices stimulate the intellect, unlock hidden potential within the mind.
So there's actual effort involved. You're not just, passively absorbing knowledge.
No, it's about actively engaging with the learning process. It's about aligning your will with the angelic forces that govern knowledge and understanding.
This is incredible. It makes me think about how we're still searching for ways to enhance our cognitive abilities today. We have speed reading, memory palaces, all these techniques. The Ars Notoria seems like an early attempt at achieving a similar goal, but from a more, spiritual angle.
I think you're right. It speaks to this enduring human desire to push beyond our limits, to tap into hidden potential.
Okay, I think my brain is officially full. We've explored the entire Lemegeton, from demons to angels to knowledge acquisition. What a wild ride.
It has been quite a journey. But I think it's important to remember that these magical practices, they weren't just isolated techniques. They were part of a much larger worldview.
What do you mean?
Well, these grimoires reflect a belief system where the universe is teeming with unseen forces, where humans can interact with spirits, angels, demons to shape their reality. It's a very different way of seeing the world than what's commonly accepted today.
It is. But there's something about it that's so compelling, this idea that we're not just these isolated individuals, but part of a much larger web of interconnected energies and beings.
Exactly. And speaking of different worldviews, I think it's time we shift gears a bit. We've been deep in the Solomonic tradition, but now I want to introduce you to a grimoire from a completely different lineage, the Picatrix.
The Picatrix. Ooh, that sounds mysterious. How is it different from the Solomonic grimoires?
Well, the Picatrix isn't about spirit evocation at all. It focuses on using astrological calculations to create talismans.
Talismans, like
Yeah.
magical charms.
Exactly. The Picatrix teaches you how to harness planetary and stellar energies to imbue these talismans with specific powers.
So instead of calling on spirits, you're tapping into the power of the cosmos itself.
Precisely. You're aligning your will with the celestial rhythms, working with the natural flow of energy to manifest your desires.
Wow, that's a really different approach. I can't wait to learn more. Welcome back to our magical mystery tour. We've explored the world of spirit evocation, summoning circles, all that good stuff. But now we're shifting gears, looking at a different kind of magic.
We're going cosmic, baby.
Cosmic is right. We're talking about the Picatrix, a grimoire that's all about harnessing the power of the stars.
It's a fascinating grimoire steeped in Arabic magical tradition, and it takes a very different approach than the Solomonic grimoires we discussed earlier.
Yeah, it's like we've traded in our summoning circles for a telescope.
Haha, kind of. The Picatrix isn't about summoning spirits, it's about using astrological calculations to create talismans.
Okay, talismans. We're talking magical charms, amulets, that kind of thing.
Exactly. Objects that are specifically designed to channel certain energies. And the Picatrix teaches you how to create them, how to imbue them with power.
So instead of, calling on a spirit to help you achieve something, you're creating a tool to work with those energies directly.
You got it. The Picatrix is all about aligning your intentions with the celestial rhythms, understanding the movements of the planets, the stars, and using that knowledge to shape your reality.
That's powerful stuff.
Uh,
But let's get practical here. How does this whole talisman thing actually work?
Well, it all starts with understanding the astrological influences at play. The Picatrix provides detailed instructions on how to calculate the most auspicious times for creating talismans. It's all about planetary alignments, specific astrological configurations.
So it's like finding the perfect cosmic recipe. Got to have all the right ingredients at the right time.
I like that analogy. You need the right materials, the right timing, and of course the right intention to infuse the talisman with the desired power. And these talismans, they can be used for all sorts of purposes.
Oh yeah, like what?
Love, protection, healing, success in business, you name it. The Picatrix gives you step-by-step instructions, from choosing the materials to inscribing them with specific symbols, consecrating them at the right astrological moment, the whole 9 yards.
It's like a blueprint for tapping into the forces that govern our lives, right?
Exactly. And it really empowers the individual. You're not relying on external entities like spirits. You're taking an active role in shaping your destiny.
Like you're becoming a co-creator with the cosmos.
That's a great way to put it. You're understanding the dance of the planets, the ebb and flow of those energies, and you're using that knowledge to manifest your desires.
It's fascinating to think about how both the Lemegeton and the Picatrix, even though they have such different approaches, they both ultimately aim to influence the world around us. It's like they're both tapping into this deep human desire to shape our reality.
And it shows that there are many different paths to power, many different ways to understand and interact with the unseen world.
Right. And one thing that struck me about the Picatrix is its emphasis on intention. It's not just about following a set of instructions. It's about imbuing the process with your own personal power.
Absolutely. Your will, your focus, your belief, all of that plays a crucial role in the magic. The power isn't just in the talisman, it's in you.
So it's like a collaboration between your inner power and the energies of the cosmos.
Exactly. The Picatrix gives you the framework, the tools, the knowledge, but it's your intention that drives the magic.
That's such a powerful message. It's not about sitting back and waiting for fate to happen. It's about taking charge, working with the universe to create the life you want.
And that's something that resonates with people, I think, regardless of whether they believe in magic or not. We all have that desire to influence our lives, to create positive change.
Well, this deep dive has been a wild ride. We've gone from the depths of demonology to the celestial realms of talismanic magic, and I feel like my brain is expanded tenfold.
It's been quite a journey, but remember, this is just the beginning. There are countless grimoires out there, ancient texts, magical traditions just waiting to be explored.
So much to learn, so much to discover.
Exactly, and that's the beauty of it, right? The world is full of mystery and wonder, just waiting for us to uncover it.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this deep dive. Thanks for joining us on this magical mystery tour. And until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep that spark of curiosity alive.